Tonight on Another Thing About Tartan, we are delighted to join you from the National Piping Centre in Glasgow. Last year I interviewed John Mulhern, Head of Piping Studies, virtually during Piping Live 2021. Gave us a fantastic insight. But it's fantastic to be here in person today as we get set for the world's biggest week of piping from the 6th to the 14th of August during Piping Live 2022. The Great Highland Bagpipe is perhaps the best known of Scotland's musical instruments, and as an ambassador for Scotland throughout the world, the National Piping Centre was founded as a charity to serve as a national and international centre of excellence for the instrument and its music. Based here in the city centre of Glasgow, the centre incorporates a piping school with world-renowned piping teachers. The auditorium is used for teaching as well as hosting special events and is even licensed for weddings. It also houses the Museum of Piping, which is home to part of the National Museum of Scotland's collection of piping artefacts. There's also a reference library. There's also a boutique 8-bedroom hotel and restaurant called the Piper's Choice, which serves traditional Scottish food with a modern twist. The National Piping Centre is a charity registered here in Scotland and provides facilities of the very highest quality for both the piping and non-piping fraternity. Visitors and regulars from both home and abroad will equally enjoy the experience, whether they come to study, to see a performance, or just for pleasure. His Royal Highness, the Prince Charles, Duke of Rothesay, is patron of the National Piping Centre, which is founded by Sir Brian Ivory, Lady Ivory and Sandy Grant Gordon, CBE. Thank you so much for joining us, Finlay, and we're looking forward to going and exploring the rest of the centre.
You're very welcome.
Here in the Bagpipe shop you'll find instruments, reeds, music, Highland wear, accessories, gifts and all sorts of other bagpipe related products. The National Piping Centre is the national centre of excellence for bagpipers, and as such top class help is always at hand when making purchases. The shop is one of the biggest brand independent bagpipe retailers in the world, stocking R.G. Hardy, Peter Henderson, Callum and David Nell bagpipes to name but a few. And Jamie, who you saw bagpiping outside, is actually the shop manager. The National Youth Pipe Band of Scotland is a charitable project run by the National Piping Centre to support pipe bands and individual young people across Scotland through unique experiences and opportunities around the development of pipe band music. The band forms a community of young people aged 10 to 25 through 3 pipe bands, which are the junior, development and senior bands. The senior band brings together some of the country's elite young players to broaden their experience and explore what is possible in a concert pipe band ensemble. The band includes players from some of the top competing adult bands in the world alongside local community bands, and gives them a space to come together free of affiliations and to have fun creating innovative new music in professional concert environments. So we're here in the auditorium, surrounded by the National Piping Centre's tartan that we saw in the hotel as well. And this is where a lot of the concerts during Piping Live will take place. So whether you come to see the concert in person or you join virtually, this is what you'll see. The centre here is a really popular wedding venue due to its location in the centre of Glasgow. So you don't have to be a piping professional to come and get married here. But what you do get is a piper included in the ceremony. There is the hotel, so you can book out the whole hotel as part of your big day. So here we are in the Piper's Choice Hotel. So this is an 8-bedroom hotel, so great if you're coming to learn about the pipes that you can spend a night here too. And you can get to see some of the National Piping Centre tartan that Finlay mentioned earlier, and actually does look very similar to New York City tartan that I'm wearing today. Housed in a beautiful B-listed building, the Piper's Choice Hotel is a comfortable home away from home located in the heart of Theatreland in Glasgow's vibrant city centre. Connected to the National Piping Centre, this restaurant, hotel and venue is perfect for a city getaway. The restaurant is a hidden gem in the heart of Glasgow for breakfast, lunch and dinner. The restaurant prides itself on sourcing the finest produce locally and around Scotland. Ayrshire bacon, black pudding, Scottish grass-fed beef, as well as some of the tastiest haggis in the world. They make great effort to use the freshest seasonal vegetables, free-range Scottish eggs and dairy products from great local suppliers. So remember next time you come to Glasgow to come and discover this hidden gem. We're delighted to be joined by Finlay MacDonald, Director of Piping. Finlay has worked here at the National Piping Centre for more than a decade and has played a significant role in the development of the organisation's teaching programme, including as Head of Piping Studies for both the Centre and the BA Music Piping Programme at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. Finlay, can you start by telling us how you first became involved in the National Piping Centre?
Well, I was actually a student here in the first ever intake of students that studied at what was then called the BA Scottish Music, and that was the joint degree that was run by what was then called the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama and the National Piping Centre. So I was in from the very start, really. That was back in 1996, and I used to come in. At the time I was getting lessons from a great piper called Pipe Major Angus MacDonald over at the College of Piping in the West End, and then when this place opened, Angus came here. So I actually remember getting a lesson in here before the building was actually officially opened.
Oh, okay.
And literally there was painters in painting the rooms, and I had a gig on, and Angus said, "Oh, come up and we'll help you get your pipes going." So that's how I started, and then once I finished my degree, I travelled a lot, played a lot of music with different bands and touring and making albums, and I ended up back doing some teaching from about, I guess it was about 2004-ish, 2003. So.
Yeah, oh, well, there you go, right in from even before insider.
In with the bricks, yeah.
And so education is a large part of what the centre looks to offer. So can you tell us more about the large variety of learning opportunities on offer here?
Sure. I mean, the centre really is for everyone. We offer teaching from complete beginners at grassroots level. We visit schools, we run our own junior classes, so that's from complete beginner all the way through. There's no age limit at all in learning pipes. If your hands are big enough, then you can do it. And so we teach a whole kind of youth programme. We run an HNC and an HND in piping. We award that ourselves. We run our degree course in collaboration with the Royal Conservatoire. We run semester programmes with Glasgow University, which is for visiting students that come in on a study abroad programme. We run summer schools. Until COVID, we ran several international schools, so we would visit Germany, Switzerland, the United States, and do schools, residential schools in those different countries. And we've always said, looking back, our youngest people usually are about 8, and the oldest person we've taught was 80. So we cover that whole range.
And so, as you mentioned, alongside the Royal Conservatoire, the Centre offers the UK's only Bachelor of Music dedicated to traditional and folk music and the music of the Highland bagpipe. So can you tell us more about the course and how that came to be?
Yep, well, as I say, the course started in 1996, and at that time, I think there was a real excitement about what that course was going to be, but nobody, I guess, knew, because in a new course, then it's going to develop and change and evolve as it goes. So I was really kind of privileged to be in that first intake, and it was exciting, because it was the first time that our music that we all love and know and have played all our lives was actually kind of studied at that level in terms of parity with other musical genres. So it's developed, it's been in existence now for over 20 years, and about 7 or 8 years ago the course changed from a BA to a BMUS, a Bachelor of Music, and I guess that was just a kind of natural progression for the course. When it started, I think the BA was probably the right framework for the course, but as the scenes changed, as the musicians have changed, the course has kind of developed a bit. So it's a very practical course. It's about finding individual musicianship and understanding the history of the music, but not letting that hold us back with the evolution and looking forward. So it's very much about kind of respecting our tradition and understanding that, but also pushing the boundaries.
So you took on the role of Director of Piping in 2020, which I can imagine must have been a very difficult time to step into such a role. How did the pandemic affect the Centre's goals and objectives? In
terms of affecting our goals and objectives, we remained absolutely true to those objectives and those goals, but we just had to negotiate how we did it. That was the big issue at the time, and of course we were lucky in some ways that we had delivered teaching online for quite a long time, over 10 years, taught through various kind of mediums online. So we had experience, we had some knowledge of how to do that, but literally from day one of the lockdown, everyone was teaching from home on their laptops remotely, and it was difficult. There was no getting away from the fact it was very difficult. We've got this beautiful building in the city centre, and it was literally, the shutters were up and it was closed, and saying that, it did provide, I think, a release for many people, and lots of people I came in contact with actually started learning during the lockdown because they had more time.
Yeah.
And I remember, for example, the first evening classes that we ran in April, right after, just as the lockdown hit, and there was a lady there who'd wanted to learn pipes for a long time. Piping was in her family, but she just never quite managed to get the time. She had kids and a job, and this gave her the opportunity to join the online evening classes, and she's now on pipes. She's 2 years later, she's kind of followed her dream and she's learning the pipes. So we turned everything online, and actually, as I say, I think there are some positives that came from it from us in terms of still absolutely set on our goals, but just had to negotiate how we deliver them, and then getting back to in person now is just, it's lovely to see the buildings busy and people coming in, hearing the pipes, seeing the buzz around the building again.
Yeah, I bet that's really exciting, and the next few weeks are particularly exciting as it sees the return of Glasgow International Piping Festival, also known as Piping Live. So how long has the festival been running, and what can we look forward to?
Yeah, so it's been, the Piping Live Festival has been running since 2004.
Okay.
So this is actually the 19th edition of the festival.
There you go.
And we're really excited. Again, the first year, 2020, we basically set our auditorium up as a studio, and it was, the artists would come in and play, and they would leave, and it was all just really, really strict guidelines. And then 2021, on the Monday of the festival, the restrictions were lifted pretty much in Scotland, but we were in a really difficult position where we had sold tickets for socially distanced venues, so we kept that fairly strict in terms of the social distancing. And this year, we're back to a full tilt festival. Lots of people in the venues, lots of people around the building. I think there's a huge social element to our festival. It's people meeting, their friends and colleagues and people that they only see maybe once a year at these kind of events. So we're really looking forward to having it back in person and very much feeling like a full festival.
Yeah, but everyone can join in online as well, can't they?
Yes, so and again, that's something that we're absolutely dedicated to, because we feel that that's now become part of the festival, and for everyone who supported us in those years when it was all online, then we feel that it's only right that we continue that, and it means that everyone can enjoy the festival whether they're in Scotland or not.
Yeah, exactly. It just opens it up. So you've blazed the trail as one of the country's finest exponents of contemporary and traditional piping. So when did you start playing the pipes yourself, and what is it about the pipes that attracted your attention?
Yeah, I started playing. It's kind of hard for me to say exactly, because piping was in my family. My dad played, my sister plays, my cousins all played, and it was very much in the local pipe band how I started. And that was out in Neilston, just south of Glasgow city centre. And very much a community pipe band, and it was great. I loved it. For me, it was about the music, and what attracted me to it was the sound. I just loved the sound of it. But I also loved watching the kind of social elements and people enjoying playing music with each other, playing at local events, travelling, getting to travel abroad. We were lucky that the Neilston band did a lot of travelling in those days. So when I was starting to become a teenager, it was one weekend would be in Spain or France or Italy, Japan. It was a great opportunity to get travelling, and the music's one thing, the sound's one thing, but for me it's all about the people. I think that was what's so important for me. Yeah,
and I think pipe bands are quite unique in that sense, in that other types of bands don't really perform or compete in the same way. So
yeah, I mean, there's quite a parallel with the brass band world in the pipe bands. There's quite a common theme going on there, but yeah, it's a lovely thing, and for me, it's so important. Pipe bands have supported and kept piping going through lots of difficult times in history. And they've been that focus of community and giving people somewhere to go and play and learn. And I think that whole learning thing is so important. For example, in our band, when we started, kids didn't pay for lessons. It was just other members of the band would teach the kids on different nights at the practice. So it was a real kind of giving back to the community.
Yeah. No, that's really nice to hear, and I think, yeah, that's echoed across Scotland, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, and so as a young piper, you've obviously said it was your local pipe band, so beyond that, how did you kind of continue to develop, and did the neighbours ever get annoyed when they could hear you trying to practice?
I was kind of lucky because, as I say, my dad, he was a very good piper, but he kind of broke the mould in many ways in the 70s. He was one of the first guys that played in the whole kind of folk music revival, the folk scene, which was quite interesting because until then pipes had kind of developed a very military kind of connotation, and at that time most pipers played in the military or police bands, or they'd certainly come through that. So, or the civilian pipe band thing, which is based on that kind of model. So, kind of my dad was at the heart of the folk revival in Scotland in the kind of late 60s, 70s. And so he also played Irish pipes, he played whistle, played small pipes, and the local pipe band thing. And he loved, as I say, the travelling thing. So I was kind of constantly exposed to lots of different types of pipe music, but also just other music. So I was kind of lucky in that way. And then I guess, when I was at that age of deciding what to do, after school, the opportunity for the degree course came up, and for me it was just like, it was perfect timing, because at that time that's all I wanted to do was play music. Yeah. And then it's kind of it's all happened from there. Yeah. But my neighbours, to go back to that, I used to practice in the garage. Oh, okay. So I was ousted to the garage to go and practice, and I didn't get too many complaints. Thankfully, my mum and dad's neighbours were kind of supportive, and they were used to it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I know, because it's not a quiet instrument, so I can imagine that can make it difficult. So. Yeah. And you were describing the Scotsman as having deep roots in the pipe band tradition, but grafted on a distinctly contemporary music sensibility to produce a compelling hybrid. So, with such a traditional instrument, I imagine it's really important to keep those traditional techniques alive, but still progressing and modernising the music played, kind of to keep engaging future generations, I suppose. So how do you strike that balance, both playing and teaching?
I think I think about this a lot, and I think music and the culture surrounding it has always changed and evolved. Mm-hmm. Like, what we're doing is nothing new in terms of pushing the boundaries. It's happened throughout history, and it's got to happen, because if something just remains the same, then there's a kind of limited time that can just remain the same. So whether it's me or other people or the whole scene, evolution is absolutely part of it, and we shouldn't tie onto just doing something because that's the way it's always been done. We can, and again, the analogy of the tree works to me. There's roots. We're all absolutely from the same roots in terms of the traditional music, and as you see, the techniques and the teaching methods, but there's lots of branches now, but we're all absolutely linked to that main route. And I think it's an exciting time, and I think the worst thing anyone can do is try and stop that change, because it just makes people want to do it even more. So I think music in general just evolves and changes, and traditional music's no different.
And as you know, at ScotlandShop we love all things tartan, and kilts are so often associated with piping, so of course have to ask, which tartans do you wear?
I wear the MacDonald tartan,
I know, a strong Scottish name.
I do, yes. I always wear the MacDonald tartan. I've got a few different ones, but I always wear the MacDonald tartan.
And through the bands that you've played with, what sort of ones did you have to wear?
So the Neilston band, we always wore Mackenzie tartan, and they still do. And I also played with Scottish Power pipe band, who have got their own tartan. Scottish Power tartan, which is very nice. I've heard a lot about. And I like your jacket because it's very similar to the Piping Centre tartan.
So this one's New York City, but we'll go around later and look out for some of the centre's own tartans. Have you always been proud of your Scottish heritage, and being so involved in the piping community, are there any other aspects of Scottish culture that you particularly enjoy?
I've always been kind of fiercely proud of my Scottish roots and heritage and music and culture, because to me it's just like, it's just so much a part of the fabric of what Scotland is. The music and the culture is like absolutely one of the one of the really unique things about Scotland and any country, I guess. But I love the food. I'm a big foodie as well, so I love Scottish food. Yeah. My hobby, if you like, is cooking and cycling. So I love getting out and about and seeing different parts of the country and trying different foods and cooking different foods from different parts of the country. But
any recipes in particular that you
anything at all. I love cooking seafood. I love cooking curries. I love just anything at all. And cycling, getting out and about and seeing different places. And
well, in Glasgow is such a great place to go off and explore.
It is, excellent.
Today we're joined by Jamie, shop manager here at the National Piping Centre. So as well as being shop manager and keeping everyone right with their purchases, Jamie also leads some of the come and try sessions, is that correct?
Yep, I do. I do quite a lot of them.
Yeah, so what's involved in a come and try session then?
So the come and try sessions, you have two ways of doing it. You can either book as a private group and have the museum to yourself, or you can come on the days that we have our piper host on, which is usually a Thursday and a Friday and a Saturday at midday. And what's involved is we'll give you a small tour around the museum, and then we'll get you playing a wee tune on the practice chanter, and then if there's one or two that feel up to trying it on the pipes, then we'll usually give them a chance at that.
Yeah. So how would you suggest someone starts from scratch then if they've got no piping knowledge whatsoever?
The biggest thing you need is a practice chanter and a tutor book. So we sell what we call a starter pack, so we'd always point someone in the direction of that, and then also try and recommend them to sign up with one of our tutors, because learning an instrument like this without a tutor is a bit of a task.
I can imagine it must be. And so what would you say is the biggest skill for a piper then?
Biggest skill for a piper is probably perseverance, patience. It can be a very temperamental instrument to learn and also to play, even when you are, maybe at a competent standard. So just patience. Yeah,
and how was it you got involved in piping yourself?
I got in piping because where my folks stay, there was a local pipe band called St Francis Pipe Band based in the Gorbals, and I went along there, and I think my folks thought it would just be one of these things I'd do for maybe a week or two and then chuck it, but no, I've stuck at it, and here I am.
And how long have you been here at the centre
then? So I've worked for the College of Piping and the Piping Centre since about 16, 17 or so. And then I've been full-time here for about a couple of years.
Perfect, that's great. So, how would we start out then? Can you show us?
Yeah, I'll just show you the basic scale here. So, practice chanter, basic scale. So that's kind of the first thing you would learn.
Yeah, and so how do you progress? I guess, is there a big step up from the chanter to the pipes?
Yeah, there is. We normally say, learn 3 or 4 tunes for a couple of reasons. It is a big step from going from the practice chanter to the pipes, but it's also, a bit of an investment. Pipes don't come cheap. So we usually, probably between, 6 months or so, you should have a couple of tunes off, and then start to be progressing onto the pipes. But even if you're, one of the best pipers in the world, your practice chanter is still your best friend.
Oh, there you go. And my final question for you, Jim, is which tartan are you wearing today? It's not one I recognise.
It's not. So it's actually, as I said, I started off when I was learning at the St Francis Pipe Band, and for their 90th anniversary, they got a bale of tartan made. The band was founded by the Franciscan friars in the Gorbals, and the kind of colours are just emulating the different kind of parts of the organisation.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you. And
no problem.
Everyone will have to come and meet you and give
please
it a try
do.
for themselves.
No problem. We're here all the time, so if you want to come in, then please do so.
Yeah,